My favorite place in Mexico City. That's where I'm going tonight. It's called Cineteca Nacional. It is a grand, immersive 16 plus theater featuring all kinds of amazing independent films. The vibe there is increíble. I love being there, and I'm going there tonight. So I thought I'd turn the camera on this morning to tell you about this day. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Asa Merritt. I wrote 6 sermons, the Audible original starring Stephanie Hsu. On this channel, I document my life into fiction. That project for Audible was a scripted piece. It was a series. Now I'm writing fiction. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. This morning, I have a lot to do. I have to finish the submission that I have started for a Weird Wild West flash fiction competition. I have the first draft of the story. That drafting process happened live here on YouTube. We did a sort of workshop to get a first draft on the page last week. I have a draft, and so what I have ahead of me today is to sharpen that up, give it some shape, give it some direction, make sure those key elements, the first sentence, the last sentence, are totally dialed in to just make sure I have got a great submission on my hands. We'll get into all that. We'll get in the weeds with all that. And along the way, I'll try to give you some other little hits of my life here in Mexico. For example, right now, we're in the studio, or the taller rather, the workshop where I write every day. And let me take you over to this little wall where I have all my goals set up. Yeah, here we go. So this wall is kind of changing my life, folks. I've really kind of gotten behind this idea of naming my goals, getting them out in front of me, and then marking them off as I make progress. So over here where it says read, these are short stories read. The goal is to read 3,000 short stories. I'm trying to read 2 a day. I'm slowly making progress. It's just granular. It's great. Other goals is here we have written short stories. This is a story that has not just been written, it's been submitted to publication. That is the standard that I have for this little box. I'm hoping to add a second box to that today when I send off the Wild West submission. This one I just added rejections. My first story has been rejected twice so far. That's what this is about. I put 300 here. That's 300 squares there, if you can believe it or not. Maybe I'll do something to celebrate once I get to that place. And over here, here's the one that we're working towards, right? Published. The idea is that eventually this will be full and I'll have a collection of short stories. To get there, I've got this little mantra: chop wood, carry water. You have a plan. And for me, that just means write every day, read 2 stories every day, and stick to that plan. And because it's going to take a few years, but you have a plan, so just keep going. All right, I just finished the story, and I'm going to tell you all about my revision and how it's going. And it's such a cool little story. I'm going outside to show you where I am. My taller, my studio, is on a roof, and I love it. It's a cuarto de servicio of a building full of artists, and this is where I come every day. Sometimes I think about naming this channel Asa Writes on a Roof. This is it. Anyway, the story. It was so fun. So it's about this woman. She writes a letter to the editor. This is an old Weird Wild West story, flash fiction, and the format of the story is a letter to the editor of a newspaper. And it's great. It's funny. It's camp. I guess what I can say about this story is that I'm so glad that I read other Weird Wild West stories in preparation for this contest. This particular story is a submission for Apex Magazine. And I took a class about Weird Wild West from a writer named Casey Griffin. I'll link that. It was a great class. And I read a bunch of Weird Wild West stories, and it was just such a lesson of read what you want to write. And I had never written Weird Wild West fiction and therefore had never read it. And this was just huge. It was really eye-opening to see how playful this genre was, how truly weird, how goofy, how slapstick, and all this made its way into my story. It's not my normal kind of writing, but I had so much fun writing it. I just want to read you the beginning just because I'm excited about it. And yeah, we do these little workshops every Friday on this channel. If you're a writer and you want to like jump into a flash fiction, I'm doing those little videos where it's like we do a prompt for a particular contest or publication, write a draft right there on the spot, and had a lot of fun with it with the Wild West prompt. All right, here we go. The name of the story is Mr. Editor. One thing I learned from that workshop is sometimes that the workshop I took from Casey Griffin is that you can use the title, like really take advantage of the title as a way to propel your reader into the story. And so the name of this story is Mr. Editor, to try to set up the formal conceit of a letter to the editor. So, Mr. Editor, I've been a loyal reader of the Heppner Gazette for some time, and let me preface this brief note by saying, on the whole, I cotton to your editorial predilections. Trying to get into some Old West language, trying to create some tension in that first sentence. Normally, I like what you do here. In this story, we're going to talk about what I don't like, conflict, all that great. We're on our way to lunch. Going to get some food. Going to take you to a fonda where the lunch specials sing and thrive. The document, the story is out to my readers, Sarah and Inga, as I mentioned. I'm here with the pups. Where are you guys? There. Icy on the right, Hugo on the left. Tomo el consomé, arroz y el pollo, por favor. Gracias. All right, everyone, it's the moment of truth, the moment we've been waiting for. We have a finished story. All right, here we go. Check this out. Look, this is our application to Apex, a good 6 hours to spare before midnight Eastern. Are we doing this? Are we doing this? Done. Message sent. Wow. All right, folks. This is big. This is big. Two stories. Estamos en camino. We're on the way. All right, I promised Sarah I'm going to read her story, give her a little proofread. She had all these great proofreads for me. Going to do that. And, got to head down to Cineteca. All right, we're headed to the movie, folks. Headed to the movie. It's been a little haphazard the last 47 minutes or so because I realized that I had some formatting errors on that short story. And so I had to decide between two different unprofessional things. One, leave the slightly poorly formatted manuscript in the hands of the reader. Not like disqualifiable, right? Like a couple tiny things, or re-email the contest with the amended fixed document. I chose the latter. I don't want the reader to open this doc and see any kind of error. I feel like that's probably an instant giveaway and will suggest a certain kind of quality. And by quality, I mean less than. Anyway, we're making moves. We're headed to Cineteca, headed to see some J-horror. We're here, Cineteca Nacional. God, I love this place. We're headed back from the movie, and we're going to take an opportunity here to riff on the nature of art, the nature of literature, what the heck we're trying to do here, the ultimate questions. We ended up seeing a movie called the universal language, or maybe it's just universal language. And the tickets we bought for the Japanese horror film are for next week. So we had to pivot. We had to call an audible, and we watched this movie, Universal Language, which is among the stranger films I've ever seen. It takes place in Winnipeg, but it's as if set in Iran. So you can imagine the Canadian city of Winnipeg, but suffused with Iranians, Persians, Iranian culture. And it's this unbelievably specific and surreal world rendered in this beautifully shot film. There's a narrative that wraps together. It's one of these films where several threads of stories come together in a non-linear, amazing way. So much of the most interesting art to me right now, and don't try this at home, folks, is this kind of work that posits a world, a fictive world, so specific and strange, and it's so clear that it comes from deep place within these artists, whether it's the filmmaker or the writer. I saw this last week in Vertigo, the novel by Sebald, where there are passages in this book, and maybe I'll find one and put it up on the screen, that just describe a universe so specific and foreign. And it's such this amazing adventure to read this book, because you're going into someone's reality. And what we're doing when we're creating these stories and narratives and art, whether it be a strange film like Universal Language or a magnificent essay novel like Vertigo, is putting into creation a universe that didn't exist before. And I just want to sort of say that out loud. I don't know what the takeaway is. I don't know the hows or the whats or the whys, but I'm just feeling that phenomenon in the art I'm consuming right now and loving it. And just specifically singular visions, whether it's Samantha Schweblin, like I just said, just these worlds, like in this film where there's a Tim Hortons coffee that instead of serving styrofoam, there's a samovar and there's Persians playing backgammon. It's the stuff of dreams, and I'm inspired. Thank you for being here.